Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Spence here at Core 4x4. Today in the studio, we have our first LJ. I don't know why it's taken me so long to get one of these Jeeps in the studio and to work on it, but the LJ, the TJ, in my mind, is the iconic Jeep Wrangler. And we're gonna do a bit of a build on this one. This is a friend of ours Jeep, and we're gonna trick it out a little bit. So we're gonna be doing tube flares with the inner fender liners, a 3.5-inch lift kit, as well as 35-inch tires, beadlocks. And since we're starting a little bit of a series, we're gonna do something a little new here at Core, and we're gonna do some different swag to commemorate the series. This is the LJ shirt for Core 4x4, so if you have an LJ, TJ, or if you're a fan of the video, check it out. We'll have it on the site. We'll have it linked down below. But we're gonna do something different with these series. In each of the videos, we're gonna give away 5 shirts. So don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. That always helps us out in the content we're making. Let's get down to what we're doing today. So part 1 of this build, we're gonna do some aluminum tube fenders. Now, this is a product from GenRight Off-Road. They're another America-made company. Huge fan of their products. I've actually never installed these tube flares, so we're gonna kind of learn together. But they're all made in America, made with aluminum, TIG welded. These welds look beautiful. Look at the welding on this. It's gonna be an awesome upgrade for this build. The guy that owns this Jeep wants to do a little more of an LCG build, or low center of gravity, and run 35-inch tires. This is their standard 4-inch version, but it still gives us plenty of room to hopefully run a 35-inch tire on a 3.5-inch lift. These are the front inner fender liners. This is sold as a front and rear kit. You can also opt in for the inner fender liners, which I do recommend. It does seem to make install more simple because you just unbolt the whole front end and bolt the new ones on. But for now, we're gonna start with the rear fenders here, and then we'll move on to the front and the inner liners. So before we get started on the rear, a couple of things you're gonna need to do this install. You're gonna need a drill, a Sharpie to mark out some holes. And I love how in the instructions it says blue 3M masking tape. Very specific, but I'm sure any masking tape will do. This is just to help protect our paint from where we're lining up the fender flare. 2 or more clamps, I got 4. I don't think we'll need that many. 8mm wrench, preferably the ratcheting wrench, and this is just to remove your rear flare. Then a set of drill bits. They have specific sizes you'll need, 7/32, 1/4 inch. And in here, it does mention a 1/4 20 tap. If you're just replacing your factory flares on the factory Jeep and you don't have the GenRight corner panels, you won't need that tap because we'll just drill and bolt these right on. That's pretty much it for all you need. We're gonna rip these off and put the new ones on. Okay, first things first, I'm gonna get this old fender off. I'm missing 1 bolt there. What I like about fender flares is that you can do this at home, in your driveway, or in your garage. You don't need a lift. Now for the rear, we're gonna leave the tires on, even though we're taking everything off for the build. But in order to line up our new flare, we wanna see exactly how centered the wheel is in the wheel well. Since this is all bone stock, this is the perfect time to do it. Once we start modding things, we're not gonna have the same reference points to line up the flare. I'm having a hard time seeing. I'm sure there's some sort of body nut tab thing on the back side of these upper bolts because they're just spinning and spinning. So we're gonna lift the Jeep up and see what we're dealing with. Hey, that bottom one and that top one came out okay. This one's just spinning on me. Same with the rest of these. So we're gonna take the inner liner out. Hopefully we can get it out. Halfway through fighting that inner fender liner, I realized gotta just take it off to get the new bolts in. It looks pretty straightforward. It's the 2 clips here. Push that out. And then down here by your rear bumper, there's one of these guys. And then down here under our rock rail, we have these 2 guys. So we're gonna try to pop those out without breaking them. We wanna reuse them and I don't wanna have to go get more. I don't have one of those fancy tools, so I'm just gonna use a flathead or 2. This guy does not wanna come on. Tons of crap in my eye. So much dirt in here. All right, we're just gonna have to get new ones of those. I did find this handy crimp tool. Let's see if I can get around it. There we go. I hate these things. There's another one up above the frame. Okay, we'll set that one aside. I could have pulled this inner liner out a little more, but you have these two clips that you can press that liner back. And the way I did it, and comment down below if you've done this before and you have a easier way. But the way I did it is I got a flathead behind the little nut tab and then just put pressure, and it took a lot longer than it probably should have. I've never taken flares off a TJ or LJ. I'll say TJ like 100 times. Now that that's done, let's clean this up. Then according to the instructions, we're just gonna hold up the new Fender flare, clamp it in, and mark it out for drilling. We wanna make sure we're centered on the wheel and we're lined up nice and flat on the top of the flare. You can see there's a lot of this growtiness. So I'm gonna go grab some glass cleaner and a rag and we'll clean that up real quick. Okay, now the instructions don't say how high above the tire to hold this, just level with the tub of the Jeep. I'm guessing we wanna mark the top side of this fender line. The masking tape they say that you need is for this part where we're mounting up to the paint. Honestly, I don't think that's a necessary step. We don't have to take the inner fender liner out. And if I'm really careful, I don't think we're gonna have a problem with the paint. So I'm gonna go grab someone to help me hold this and I'll be right back.
All right, what's the deal?
Instructions say to clamp this and mark it out, but I'm just gonna have you hold it where I like it and then I'll mark it. Looks pretty good to me. You good?
You gotta make sure that you can reach those.
The edges look pretty good. I'll come grab you if I need you again. I tried 2 different heights on here, just holding and marking. The front hole came out the same, so that means I wasn't level. This one and this one, both of those will clear. It seems that this install has a lot of preference on the height of your flare, so we're gonna match driver to passenger on here. Now this is my second one, the higher one, which I don't think I can go with because this back mark, I don't know if you can see it right here, is right on the line where this piece of sheet metal inside here connects. So either I have to go really high or I have to go down to that first mark. I don't want to drill more than once, so I'm going to hold it up one more time, etch out another hole. You can do this like the instructions say, which is probably the better way, but I'm all about efficiency. Now my first height was like right about here. This doesn't cover the paint marks. There was some marking in the paint. And of course we can silicone on here and help it seal better to the body to make it look better. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with those marks. I'm gonna start drilling. We're gonna get this passenger side mounted and we'll see how that looks. Now, I do have 3 etch marks on here. I'm gonna go in with my third one, which was in the middle of both of these, which is the one I like the best. Okay, we have our holes. Let's grab our hardware. For the hardware, we have these normal 1/4-20 bolts. You're gonna have the normal washer under the top of the head of the bolt. And for the back side, we're gonna be using these Fender washers and the serrated flange nut. Okay, I'm gonna get my wrenches ready for this, so let's go figure that out. Looks like 11mm on the wrenches fits well. See if we can get these installed. Okay, so this back one, wasn't able to get a fender washer on because it's so tight up in there, but that masking tape did go to use because I taped the flange nut on the back and got up in here. That piece of sheet metal, I have it up high enough that that nut is right up against that sheet metal, so we're not gonna get a fender washer on this back one because of how tight I have it, but we are gonna be able to get it installed and it'll be good. All right, this side was way faster. It never said in the instructions about the inner fender liner. I don't think you need to take it off at all. If you have sticky nut tabs, get a small screwdriver, put some pressure on them, and I was able to work everything out. We're gonna put the other one up, mock it up, mark it out, drill, and get it installed. I did measure the other side. We're about 3 3/8 from the top here, so we're gonna match that up. Let's get all this cleaned up first. Okay, on the driver's side here, I'm gonna do something different than the other side. I'm gonna do these top 2 bolts. I'm really confident on those. I'm gonna drill them. I'm gonna hang it from those top 2 bolts, which will allow me to mark out these bottom 2 ones a little easier. I think I'll get a more accurate hole guide. Check our measurement here. Cool, we're the same as the other side. I highly recommend just a little hook nose like this for marking this out, because trying to get a Sharpie back in there is really difficult. I had it on there, and then it fell. Here we go. Okay, boys, we got the rears done. This back bolt had a little trouble. Our tub is dented in a little bit, but sealed up real nice against the body. Now the Jeep is sitting high. Set it down and see how it looks with the wheels. All right, it is time to nail out the front flares. These are gonna be a bit harder than the rear. The rear were very simple. Unbolt, drill a couple holes, bolt on. I was a bit unclear when I was reading the instructions. I had a question on the inner liners. In their instructions, it says you have to mark out and cut your old flare to mount up the new ones. In the video I watched, the owner was just unbolting and bolting everything on. I called up the guys at GenRight, talked to Andrew. Awesome dude, helped me out. Because we have the inner liners, which I do recommend getting if you're gonna do this project, we just have to unbolt everything, and then we should be able to bolt everything in. There will be a bit of what the instructions call massaging, and that's going to be true with any sort of body panel type installation, especially fender flares. And the only other thing I noticed in the instructions was we may want to remove the shocks so we're not scratching our inner liners. And since we're putting a whole lift kit on this, we're just going to do that. We're going to take the shocks off. But that's enough talking. Let's start tearing things apart. First, we're going to get our hood open. Now, we do need to disconnect everything that's bolted to our inner fender flare. We're gonna have to get the intake off, the fuse box off, and then I think we're pulling the battery too. So let's get working on that. Air box is the 8mm. Looks like the fuse box is 10mm. There is a nut tab on the inside of your fender well. We're gonna save all this hardware because I know you reuse some of it. I'm just not sure which yet. Let's get this battery off of here. The fuse box just has these clips. Get that off so we can get the bracket off. We're just gonna set that aside for now. The bracket is a 10mm. Pretty sure we need to take our battery tray out too. Battery tray looks like a 13. We just need to disconnect these 4 bolts on the inside of the wheel well that'll detach from the battery support here. I think that stays in, but we do need to get at these 4 bolts along the firewall here. Those look like a 13. It looks like we have an attachment here to the front grille. And then on the inside again, we have these 3 guys and these 3 guys. Looks like 14 bolts total. We'll see when we get into it. They all look like the 13mm, so I'm gonna go get the little side impact. We got 3 out of the firewall, and there's 1 more just right here. Okay, there is 1 more little guy on this box poking through the flare. So we're gonna take that guy out. I don't know what that is, but looks like a 10mm. Do I have the 10? I do. There we go. Okay, we do have 1 extra bolt here because of this aftermarket runner on here, so we're gonna grab that. Looks like a Torx and a 10mm. We're also gonna disconnect our wiring harness here, and then we need to disconnect our lights. There we go. Okay, we just got our lights disconnected. Each of these is just a simple twist counterclockwise, and we'll pop it out. We do have the new light kit, so with that we are gonna have to, if I remember, splice some wires. So we might be okay to cut these, because this is the hole we're gonna have to pull them through, and this one will fit, but this guy, I don't know. But I'm gonna check the instructions before I cut anything. But I think we just have these 3 guys left, and that should be it. We should have the driver's side off. So let's get those guys out. Our runner panel here is what's holding us up, so I'm gonna take a few more of these bolts out. I think since we're gonna have the new flares, I'm gonna make the executive decision to just cut this flush. Let's see if I can get it out without doing that. There we go. All right, our fender's off. We are hanging by the lights, so I'm gonna go check the instructions and make sure I'm good to cut those, because I think we spliced them. But look at that. So here's the light kit. Okay, the instructions don't say anything, but you do get this wiring diagram, and all of the lights here just come bare wire. I think I saw it on a video. We're gonna splice these, so I'm gonna cut that big guy. I think this is our blinker and this is our runner. We'll check that when we get to wiring. Let's just grab some snips, cut the wires. Now, the kit we went with is the standard Fender flare. They do have a Highline one, which I guess gives you more clearance, which you'll have to get the battery box relocation bracket. We're not doing that one, so we're gonna leave that battery box alone. The Highline version does include cutting your hood and redoing some of that, but we're just doing their standard 4-inch flare. The inner fender here comes in 2 pieces. We'll get these bolted together and then we'll start test fitting everything. I like that they have nice colored instructions here. So the top plate goes over with the bolts. The nuts should be on the inside towards the engine. And then this bracket will be that guy on the front right there. Easy enough, let's do it. We got that together. I really like the nice clean look that's gonna be tire side. They have the overlap on the outside, and you put all the nuts on the outside of this inner fender. So now is where I think we want to take that shock off, because getting this inner fender up and over that shock tower is what scratches it a lot. So we're gonna pop the shock off before we do any fitting. And since our fender's out, we have a nice, easy access to the shock. The top bolt's 15, bottom bolt is 13. Shock is out. Let's try to get these fenders on. Okay, we got the inner one kind of in. Now we are gonna be massaging this. I'm gonna get my 2 front bolts started up here. They go to the grill. There we go. Let's see if you can see that other one. There we go. Got those 2 finger tight. I'm gonna go get the fender and start fitting it all together. Okay, so yeah, I was definitely right. This inner liner needs to go behind this plate and in front of the battery box mount. I took these front 2 bolts out of the inner liner, and then I also talked to Andrew over at GenRight. He did recommend a little clearancing around this cross member here. So before I pull the inner liner out, I am gonna mark it with a Sharpie, and we'll just do a little trimming just to give us a better fit, because it's right up against that, and we don't want our aluminum cracking because it has a lot of pressure against that. So we're gonna do a little clearancing. Just mark out this cross member a little bit, something like that. And then we're gonna refit it. Before you powder coat, before you paint, do all your fitting, checking, all of that. Make sure it bolts in right on these. So this is my freehand mark. I'm gonna clean it up a little bit. Go a little wider. Really don't need to go that high. We're not gonna go quite that deep. I'm gonna take the flap disc. All right, that's what our little cutout looks like. Let's see how it fits. I'm gonna undo these back bolts so I can pull the fender out so we can get this lip to line up. I don't love reusing the factory bolts, so I went and grabbed some new hardware. So when we do go to bolt this in, we're gonna do fresh hardware with some anti-seize on it. Really don't wanna put dry bolts back in here. So always use some anti-seize or grease, especially on these older Jeeps. All right, so got those bolts out, but I got this stupid, I really wanna cut this thing. Yeah, I'm just gonna cut that. It doesn't need to be there. We're gonna make a nice clean edge the best we can. Try not to beat up anything. Make sure we're going straight, but we're not cutting the body. Looks like we can go straight down. There we go. Yeah, that's gonna look a lot better. Now we should be able to get this part lined up. Yeah, that thing was really holding us up. Okay, we got that lip on the outside. Okay, I'm gonna grab our new bolts and anti-seize. So I just went and grabbed these. You can do stainless to match everything else. They didn't have stainless in this size. These are a little harder to fish in because the factory ones have that neck down right there that help you get lined up, but we're not too worried about that. I'm gonna clean up that edge down there with the grinder before. Just put a little bit of paint on here. All right, my paint can is failing. I'm just gonna take a little bit of this paint on a rag, cover this bare metal. You don't want any rust showing through, just to seal up that edge. Beautiful. Just gonna put a little dab of anti-seize. This stuff makes a mess. We're not gonna go crazy. We don't want any dry bolts. Let's get a couple bolts in here to hold this. That all seems to line up better. Okay, I've messed with this a little bit. Looks like the issue we're having is this like corner edge. There's a flat spot here and it's just not quite short enough, and I thought I was losing my mind, but I went and grabbed the other side here. So this is the driver's side and it's supposed to fit right here like this, but it doesn't come flush. So we're gonna trim some of this edge right here. But even with the top plate that goes over it, this plate here, there's definitely not enough room for that to flush up. I'm just gonna run the angle grinder down and open that up until we can get it to fit. It shouldn't be that bad. A little bit of trimming. Yeah, let's see if that'll fit. I don't think we're quite lined up. We're really tight against the top here. I don't know if you can see against the bottom here. Very tight. We definitely need to trim more. All right, let's see how that fits. Oh, that fits a lot better. It feels way cleaner. That fit together a lot smoother. I don't know if these two holes are gonna actually line up with anything because of how we had to trim it. That plate could go a little further. We need to suck the bottom in a little more. You can see where we trimmed for that cross member. Give us a little bit of clearance. It's looking pretty good. We are touching here, so we might open that up. It's hitting right there. So I just may take this corner off. We're tight up here on the top of the flare, and we are all the way over. You can see the bottom. Looks like it can come over a little bit. So let's try that. I've been finessing and massaging this for too long. I'm throwing in the towel. We're gonna take the fender off and the inner liner out and make them fit before we put it on the Jeep. We probably should have checked before we went to install anyways, but I'm gonna just take the whole thing off. It's not even really bolted on, and we'll do some trimming to make them actually fit. This is so close. I don't know if we got something wrong here. See how we're contacting right there. It's just not quite the right shape to sit flush against that. And I could be doing something wrong, but this is how it looks like it's supposed to go together for me. So we're gonna trim this over here on the table. Pretty much there. We're just gonna shave a little more off so we're not fighting it. We also gave ourselves a little bit of a line cross member. We're just gonna give it a little more space and clean this up, make it look nice. I keep saying cross member, but it's the motor mount. Okay, we're getting there. So I finally have my inner liner lined up nicely. You can see it's seamed up against the outer liner. What I'm really fighting is this battery box is just a little too long. So before I take the inner liner off, while I have it meshed up nicely, I'm gonna mark my holes here to drill, because you gotta drill through these holes. Just gonna put a mark since we're taking everything off again. But I'm gonna pop these firewall bolts out, and then we're gonna try to bend this battery box back, at least this outer edge, just to give us a little more room. You can kind of see how if we just bend that lip back, we should be able to get the clearance. Okay, we got that bent over more towards the angle we wanted. Let's drill out this inner liner and get this thing mounted, finally. And those are my holes. Hopefully they're big enough. We are gonna use fender washers to hit everything. I am excited to get this installed. Now I'm gonna start my two cowl bolts here on the inner liner before I get the other liner on. Anti-seize was probably a little premature because I am covered now. Did not realize we'd be doing so many test fits. This better be the last one. See if we can get this on. Oh, that's much better. Bending that battery box helped a lot. To make sure we're all the way flush. Still tight. Now that we're almost tight on the front, we're still fighting that battery box. It's just gonna be tight right there. But right here, we got our fuel line. It's getting pinched there. So we got our notch for our motor mount. That's not touching, that's doing okay. But that fuel line, or not fuel line, brake line, we probably need to make a little notch right here for that brake line. This is a final look at our trimming. We got our brake line notch, our motor mount notch, a little bit of marker still, but it should fit good. I'm not even gonna say this is the last fit again, because this is probably not the last fit. These guys in, again. These bolts I got are a little long. Everything is finally lining up nicely. We'll have to tighten some of this up, but it's coming together. It's this battery box. It's really pushing on that. That's the only issue. We did clearance that brake line and that motor mount. It looks really good. Fits nicely up in there. You can see the brake line back there popping through. Yeah, now it's just bolting it together, and then we have to secure the fuse box, the air box, everything. We're gonna mount new holes to secure everything, get the battery tray back in, and get everything back together. So let's get at it. I have all 4 firewall bolts loosely fitted. The 2 inner ones with the fender washers, these are also loosely fitted. You got your 2 in the front cowl, and then your other 3 here. Now, these are all just hand tight and everything. It's gonna allow us to finesse our lines a little bit. I'm finally on the home stretch here for the passenger side. I'm gonna start dialing it in, finessing, massaging to get all my body lines to line up. I think we're there, guys. Okay, that wasn't that bad. I have all the main bolts tightened down. The last thing to do before we start remounting our fuse box and filter and all that is we need to do the rivets to connect the inner liner to the actual fender flare. So I went to Harbor Freight and got one of these little rivet guns. The kit does include the little rivets, so we're just gonna drill the holes. This is gonna be the final piece to tie everything together on the passenger side. So we're gonna drill and rivet these. I am so excited. That looks so clean with those rivets. Inner liner is tied to the fender flare. We need to remount our fuse box and our air filter and get the battery in. I think I'm gonna start with the battery. I went and picked up some 1/4-20 stainless steel button heads just because I think it just match better and have a cleaner look. But let's get all that mounted. Then we'll do the lights. We do have to splice in the new lights and get them mounted with the hood and the blinker. We're almost there. So, because we had to bend this flange, this flare is just a little tighter than I want. So I'm just gonna trim this tray a little bit just to have a better fit in here. There we go. Just got the battery and the battery tray in, and I realized I forgot this little vacuum box thingy that's supposed to go under the battery. See that little hose sticking out? That's where this goes. Just remounted that vacuum box. Now it's not gonna be banging around in there. Round 2 for the battery. All right, fuse box is in. I reversed the fuse box mount, flipped it around, and then we bent it a little bit to flush up to the inner flare. Got it nice and straight. We checked our hood clearance. Everything's gonna clear and close on that. I'm gonna hold off on the filter box because I'm not even sure if we're putting that back in. I think I've seen in the videos where you get the K&N, the little stubby guy here. That's a much better solution. We're limited on space, and the old filter box is designed to mount around the old fender. So we got like 3 different heights on these mounting points. And I don't feel like fabbing a bracket right now. So I know this little guy obviously goes there, and this is gonna be our new blinker. And then this is gonna be our new runner, which I think that is reversed from the factory. So we're gonna pull our harness up through here. I don't know, do we put our wiring through here? Let me go get the guard and make sure we can run our wiring, if that's the plan, or not. This is our guard, so obviously we can't get our wiring through there. I think we need to come up under the front. I think that's the plan. Okay, don't do what I just did. I thought with my brain, and it didn't make sense. My first instinct when wiring this is just, oh yeah, hook up the new blinker to the old blinker light and the marker to the old marker light. No, that's not what you do. Right here is their wiring instructions. So I got that all wired up, went to turn it on. Yeah, the blinker worked, but the runner light wasn't gonna work. I don't know why. But right here, do not use wires from factory side marker light, which was what I did. So I cut that, and it's really pretty simple. I mocked it up right here. I don't know if all TJs are the same, but you're doing both of your grounds. So you got your new blinker here and your side marker here. and you're tying all your grounds together, so your black wire. And then this black wire will go to my brown striped wire here, and then the yellow will go to the yellow. We can go test this. We'll turn the TJ on. Everything should work as it should. We're gonna turn our lights on, which will turn our side marker on, and we're gonna do the blinker. So with the lights on, we should have a side marker like on the driver's side, which is gonna be our rectangular light. Now that we got that figured out the right way, we're actually gonna get them all wired up and sealed up and installed. Of course, always read the instructions. Now, since I didn't run this the right way, and since I had to cut it and come all apart, we're gonna run that up through this gap here so we can have a nice clean look, and we'll clean up some of this. This is where I cut those off. Now that we're squared, let's get the wiring done. Our side marker bracket here is gonna attach with our hood mount. So we're gonna get our hood mount. This one had new hood latches on it. We'll get that off the old Fender. We'll be done with the passenger side finally, and then we can move on to the driver's side. Got that all spliced together. Now we'll put some of this heat shield over the new stuff and tuck it up, and it'll be all nice and neat under here. We're gonna get this all mounted up, get the hood latch on, and yeah, here we go. We gotta go get our hood latch off this old Fender. Looks like it's just this one bolt. Look at that. Fits on nicely. Where'd our bracket go? Back over here. We got this loosely fitted, but there is some side-to-side movement, so we're gonna close the hood and make sure we're lined up. Right about there looks good. I'm gonna tighten that up now. Here we go. Beautiful, nice gap too. I love how this tucks up under here. Let's go double check one more time that our wiring's correct before we button this side up. Okay, so if I turn the lights on, I should just have the runner. All right, that's gonna show awesome. Now let's check our blinker. Nice. We did it. Wasn't that hard, just look at the wiring diagram. We're gonna get this plate on, and we'll do a better job of cleaning up the wires later. The passenger side is done. And now that we've done it once, we can do the other side way faster. So let's knock it out. Okay, got the whole driver's side torn apart. That probably only took me 20 minutes. 13 millimeter. If you have one of these side impacts, super handy. There's a bit more stuff. You got your washer fluid, you got this thingy, and the whole wiring harness on this side to refit. On the other side, you had the fuse box and air filter if you're gonna put that back in. We're gonna go with the K&N cone. Got the shock out of the way. I'm ready to start test fitting, but I learned my lesson on the other side. We're gonna mock up the inner liner, get it all trimmed up, fitted, everything before we start messing around. Hopefully I don't have the same issues where I need to bend this battery box support to get everything to fit right. So I'm gonna go get the liner assembled, get it all trimmed, and then we'll start test fitting. This bottom edge you can see tripped us up on the passenger side, so we're just gonna mark it out and trim it before we even mock it up. We're contacting here, and this needs to sit flush inside this edge. If we come over here, it fits nice and flush up against this edge on the inner liner. So we're gonna do all that before we even go over to the Jeep and mess with that. So I think we ended up trimming this whole corner parallel. Now, I don't know if you normally have to do this or if we just got some weird liner that doesn't fit with these. And to be honest, I didn't read through the instructions all the way. But yeah, we're gonna trim right here. Okay, got that. That's gonna fit. We can start test fitting on the Jeep. Don't mind the haircut in between scenes, because let's just pretend like I did this all in one day. After all the practice I had on the passenger side there, we should be good to go. Got the inner liner in. After talking to Andrew over at GenRight, I knew I was gonna have to trim our steering linkage tower. So we got it in, we got it all the way forward and up against the fender mount here. So now we can kind of mark out for our trimming. I'm just gonna grab a Sharpie. So right here, this is the little tower that supports the steering linkage. This is our motor mount. We may need to trim for that one again as well. But let's get this kind of marked out. We don't want to cut more than we have to, but we're gonna get a good fit in here. Let's try that and see how it fits. All right, our first cut was pretty close, which is great. We're a little off on our angle, so we're gonna trim this down a little more and open up this top. It could slide forward just a little bit, so we might just open up back here a little more. And then our motor mount here could be an issue. And then also, these are hard brake lines, so we're gonna need a notch for those. But since we got it closer now, we can see how everything's gonna fit. So I'm gonna mark out a notch for these brake lines to come through. I don't wanna have to reroute those. And then we'll open up this guy a little bit, maybe go a little taller, do something like this. And then for the motor mount, we don't need a lot for the motor mount. It's got a weird shape on this side, so try something a little more rounded here. Okay, this guy will probably just notch in this corner here. Just give a nice hole. Okay, test fit number 2. Let's see what we got. This is what my trimming is at now. Nice little pocket for the motor mount, brake cable action, and this slit for the steering tower. Let's see how that looks. We're getting hung up on the base of the tower. This all looks good, like it should clear. We're just gonna notch out here. This looks like that's gonna fit. Those brake lines okay. We might make them a little bigger. Our motor mount is looking okay as well. So I'm gonna grab the Sharpie and probably mark out a little path for that. Driver's side is starting to come together. This is what our trimming looks like. There's a little bit right here by the bolt. Probably want to round that out. So probably just gonna take a notch, something like that. And then these hard lines, we could probably bend down a little bit to clear. We don't want it rubbing at all. So we might finish taking that out. Then our motor mount, it's looking pretty good. That can still come down a little bit. We might square that out. A few more tweaks. We got our outer flare on. It's pretty close. It does look like we're gonna have to mess with this brace. It's really tight. Everything's against here, so we're gonna bend this guy again like we did the other side. This is lining up pretty good. We almost have our holes there. The inner guy is gonna be tight, but we'll make it all work. A little more trimming and then should be bolting this guy in. Okay, this is what my final trimming looks like. Yours may look different. Got a little more clearance around the motor mount. That one looked really good. And our brake lines here. Now it is tight, so we will have to pull it over, but I'm gonna start putting bolts in and we should be good to go. I did forget we need to drill these holes. All right, guys. I know you can't tell when you're watching the video on YouTube, but this install has taken me several weeks. I am ready to be done. She's finally done. We did have to remove the washer fluid reservoir. I don't know how they incorporate that. It may get rerouted behind the flare. I'm gonna let the owner of the Jeep make some of those decisions. But other than that, she's done, and these look awesome. Definitely a sweet upgrade for the TJ or the LJ. A bit of work, a bit of skill is needed. This is one of those installs that you need to walk it through and take your time. We did some trimming, we did some fitting. Do all of that before your powder coat and you won't have any issues. Stay tuned because this is the first of many videos we will be doing on this LJ. We're gonna start on the lift kit next week and I'll show you what that looks like, so watch out for that video. Since this is a series, we did do the LJ merch. So we'll have this link down below if you want the shirt. We're also giving away 5 shirts per video on this to the best comments. So comment down below, make me laugh, let me know what I did wrong. If you've done this install on your Jeep, tell me how it went because it was a bit of work. Like, comment, subscribe. That really helps us out in what we're doing, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.